It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
You want something, go get it, period.
You gotta keep moving, let's go. Don't quit until you got nothing left.
This is where we have been, this is how we got here, this is who we are.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
You're listening to the Hustle Indie Show, where we seek out some of Indie's most hustling people and places to learn about what they do, how they got started, and where they're going. Sit back and enjoy the show.
What is up, Hustle Indie Show listeners? I'm Brendan Helm, joined as always by the wonderful
Andy Felice.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. We recorded this episode 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. I'm usually, waking up by 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. So
Yep.
it was actually good and refreshing to get out, kind of get the day started. It was fun picking you up since you don't have a car right now.
You're right. You're right.
I
made you some coffee this morning.
You did.
Made you coffee.
I already drank it all.
I'm still working on it, but it is what it is. It was a nice, bright, fresh start to the morning.
Yes.
Got some good company. This episode that we did was phenomenal.
Yep.
Learning more about the mastermind behind Coni Superfoods. It was just really informative, really cool to hear his story, just to learn about like the struggles, the challenges, the curve of learning.
Yeah.
All of this stuff is just, it was interesting.
Yeah, no, Joe is he's a pretty young, relatively young guy compared to a lot of the guests that we have on here, I guess, so far. And he's just starting his journey, literally just starting his journey with this Coni Superfoods.
Yep.
And he has a couple flavors already out. He has more in the pipeline.
Yep.
And I agree. Hearing this story of, not knowing how to make these things, literally being in his kitchen at late at night on a Saturday trying to make up some sort of good recipe was kind of inspiring, actually.
Yeah, it's really cool, too, because this is a totally different perspective, I think, than we've had ever on the show.
It is.
He is at the very beginning of starting things.
Yes.
And just learning about that, like, fresh passion and the motivation to, like, just get going.
Yeah.
It's a really cool, unique perspective that, I mean, so many of us can probably relate to.
Yeah.
In one way, shape, or another. But this stuff, let me tell you, I love it. I had some this morning, put it on some toast. It is delicious.
Yeah.
And it's good for you, which is even better.
Yeah, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy this conversation. I know
Absolutely.
we did. I'm ready. Let's just jump right into it.
Make sure you share some love for Joe and his company. Hope you enjoy this episode. It was a great one.
Absolutely.
Let's get right to it. All right, guys. Well, today on the Hustle Indie Show, we've got an awesome guest, someone who has, quite frankly, made his way into my morning routine. But we'd like to welcome Joe to the Hustle Indie Show. Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you guys for having me.
Starting off the morning strong. We're here 8 a.m. bright and early.
Yep, exactly.
So, I understand that you have started a little thing called Coni Superfoods.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about Coni Superfoods and how it got started.
Yeah. So Coni is just a play on my last name, Laconi. What it is as a whole, or kind of mantra, is everything we need, nothing you don't. So 4 core food groups in every bite: protein, fruits, veggies, fats, with none of the bad coming with it. So it's all natural ingredients, keto friendly, so low carb, low sugar, no artificial preservatives, no artificial flavors, none of that. So that's kind of the mission behind the whole company as a whole. The first product that we've launched is a superfood spread coming in apple, cinnamon, and chocolate cocoa. So you can just take it straight out of the jar, like it's like the 2 main ways I use it are just straight out of the jar, like it's ice cream at like 9 o'clock. When you're eating or watching Netflix instead of eating like pretzels or ice cream.
Yeah.
Or I also do like a breakfast or a lunch, throw it on the toast. You have your food groups going for the day.
Yep, that's what I had it on toast this morning, and it was, I love it.
Yeah,
it tastes so good.
Awesome.
So back to how'd you get started? How'd you get into Coni Superfoods? How did you kind of have the idea? What was the inspiration? Where did you come from?
Yeah, well, it kind of goes back to how I grew up. Honestly, I went to Zionsville High School, so I'm from Indy.
Cool.
Lived in Chicago the last couple of years, but just moved back like 4 months ago to relaunch the business here, actually, and just to come home. But so grew up in a really like health and fitness focused family. Parents are divorced, but my both my parents are just like, they kind of dedicate their life to it. It's not what they do on their day job, so it's not like they don't really dedicate their life to it. But aside from that, that's really all they do. Like my mom was actually a model back in the 70s and 80s and started running before running was really a thing. So she would talk about, she lived up in Chicago for a bit and would talk about like running in Sperry boat shoes because they didn't have running shoes.
Wow.
And people would be looking at her like, who you running from? You know? Just because it wasn't normal.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So she's just the kind of person that really watches what she eats. She gets up every day and works out.
Wow.
And probably hasn't missed a day in my lifetime.
That's awesome.
And then my dad is probably more extreme, honestly. He's like a 60-year-old dude that looks like he could play for the Colts. He's all like yoked up and ripped up. So my definition of what a dad bod is a little bit different than a lot of other people. So I kind of thinking back, or I guess I don't want to say, I like to joke I kind of got brainwashed into it, but like that's what our family was. Those were the influences, and I wasn't always into health and fitness. Like, I mean, you guys probably could relate. In high school, you don't really care about that kind of stuff. But once I got it, I worked out and stuff in high school, but once I got into college, and then especially after college, the past 4 or 5 years, have just gotten way more into like fitness, exercise, nutrition, psychology. I just love this stuff. So, but I always wish, going back to the product, that, and it was kind of, I didn't really understand why there wasn't a product out there that had everything you needed in it, essentially, like just infused in it. Like when I started thinking about this was 2018, and I felt like technology had gotten to a place, or like technology is not the right word, but we understood food and consumer needs got to a place where we would have products like that, and we didn't. So I went out to create it. So that's kind of how I got to this product was, what are the things that I eat? I eat mainly a paleo diet, and what I want to get in my life is protein, fruits, veggies, fats from all good sources. And went out to build it. I mean, I started little businesses in high school and college, so I always kind of, and so did my parents. They started their own.
Okay.
So I kind of had that, like, it's been a dream of mine, honestly, to have a business forever. So
how do you go about building and putting this together?
Yeah.
Is it one of those things like, oh, I like fats, let me throw, like, how do you even start, like, mixing it? Is it cooked, or how did you just in the kitchen one day, or where does that start from?
I got a buddy, John, that I lived with when I started doing that, and he kind of thought I was insane with the stuff I was putting together. But yeah, I mean, I just started mixing stuff in the kitchen. I don't have any experience really cooking or baking or anything like that. So I just kind of started mixing stuff and thought about, I mean, that was my thought was like, what are things from those food groups that I eat and I think are good? And how do I mix those together? So in the beginning, it was like I had one where it was like yogurt and like black beans. It was like just trash. It tasted like tree bark. It was terrible. But then after a couple years, you figure out like what are just the simplest ingredients to get what you're going for that has the macro nutritional ratio that you want, the taste, the texture, and then shelf life was a project on its own.
Yeah, that would be very difficult. So
just took time.
Before we go too far into the product itself, I want to get a little bit more where you came from and how you came up with this idea. So you went to college at IU. You were telling us off air. What did you go to college for?
I went to college because my whole family went to IU.
Okay. Gotcha.
I went to college for business. I don't know. I wanted to get into the Kelly School and didn't try hard enough my freshman year, so I didn't get in.
Gotcha.
But business has always been it's been a dream of mine to have a successful business and something that I loved since high school. Back then, I thought it was like nightclubs and stuff because I was like partying and stuff like that. But that's changed quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So So yeah, that's business has been my focus.
So you just paired something that you were raised with, which was health, nutrition, which you kind of after college, and this is something that kind of I'm very familiar with. My roommates and I actually talk about it quite a bit, is the importance of maintaining your health when you're not required to. So like when you're not playing a sport or when you're not involved on a team, how do you take care of yourself? And it's a lot more of a conscious effort outside of sports and high school and college. And once you get into the real world, you work a 9 to 5, you go home,
it's hard.
You watch some TV and you go to bed. It's hard to find a place to work out in there sometimes. And finding a healthy, place to eat when you're watching Netflix, like you had said, that's also something that's really important, and also, like you said, hard to do. Find something to snack on. So you kind of have paired that from your business mind as well as really just enjoying health and nutrition.
Totally. Yeah, I completely agree. I think I lucked out that I grew up in a health and fitness family, because that's just what I know. And it's what I've now am interested in. I think that's not a coincidence.
Right.
So I think that it's just easier for me to do all those things that you talk about. Yeah. Because my dad was going to the gym every day, and my mom was every day. Yeah. So, but there was something at the end of that I wanted to comment on. I forgot what she said.
I'm not so sure. But I don't remember. So I want to go. So apple cinnamon, and you said the other one was cocoa. What was
chocolate cocoa?
Chocolate cocoa.
Yeah.
How did you come up with those two flavors?
It wasn't real research based or any or scientific or anything. I liked the flavors. I thought those were two good staples to start off with. And I wanted to only start off with a couple. I wanted to keep it simple. Not only did I want to keep it simple, but it's just hard to make another flavor. So, I kind of thought of, the chocolate cocoa one used to have nuts in it, and then I took that out. It was going to be like a chocolate nut kind of thing, and I took out the nuts to be, to get away from peanut or just nut allergies. Yeah. So that's kind of how I got to that flavor. But it was essentially just start with two staples and try to build it from there. Yeah.
When you were first getting started, given that your formal education isn't necessarily in kind of the food industry or nutrition and stuff, was there kind of a learning curve, and was it intimidating when you were first getting started? Yeah.
There was a huge learning curve, especially in shelf life, like we were talking about before. I'm not even a science guy, I don't know this stuff. So it was hard. There was a huge learning curve, and there were a lot of times when I was in the kitchen on a Saturday or on a Tuesday night, and I'm and it's 9 months in, and it tastes terrible, and I'm nowhere, and I'm just why am I doing this? What's going on? Why am I spending my time in the kitchen with an apron on at 25? It was tough, but I mean, it's like anything, you just kind of figure it out. If you keep doing it, you're gonna figure it out. So I was able to network with some people that he gave me this little hint here, and this guy gave me this hint, and then I did my own research just about fat oxidation is a big thing with shelf life, and water activity levels and pH levels in terms of pathogens growing in the product. So it's got to be a certain number in order to be shelf stable.
Wow.
So I just had to learn that stuff and learn what impacted those things, and then what are natural ingredients. I could throw a preservative in there a year and a half ago and I'd be fine. But I didn't want to do that. So I had to figure what are the things to move each lever,
And when you were working through that kind of those challenges and that, you said, 9-month process, when you're looking back and you're like, man, what's going on? What drove you? What motivated you to keep trying?
Well, it was really 2 years, honestly. It wasn't 9 months.
Wow.
What drove me to keep trying? I don't know.
Just woke up every day and kept doing it?
What else am I going to do? What am I going to play video games? It's not, that's kind of it's not that bad to be standing in a kitchen mixing stuff up, listening to a music or a podcast. It's not that bad of a life. So there's that, but then I've also just had the dream of how cool would it be if I had this big company with a product that I love, that other people really value. That's been the dream since I was 16.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, I don't know. I mean, there are definitely times when I doubted whether I could do it. Like, I had no business. And it's not like I'm Kellogg, so I'm not going to act like that I did something big, but I have no business, like, starting a food product from scratch. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think it's just the big picture of, like, how cool would it be if I accomplished this one day.
Yeah, yeah. So
I kind of pull
since
from
you're
that
in business school, what is the business like model or the idea behind it? So you told us that this is exclusively sold online right now, correct?
Yes.
Is your goal to move that into stores sometime?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what channels would you want to go through? Is there specific, like, Whole Foods specifically, or?
Yeah, I haven't thought a ton about stores yet and retail distribution. I'm keeping it only. My goal over the next year is to be totally direct to consumer.
Okay.
So we just launched like a month ago.
Yeah.
So brand new, but I want to build from like the business side of things. I want to build more of a foundation and infrastructure on my own.
Okay.
Through social media, just driving traffic directly to my site. So to try to build a business where I don't have to rely on Whole Foods.
Yeah.
You know, if they're like 80% of my revenue and then they say you're done, then I'd be in trouble. You know, so there's that aspect. Like I want to have the leverage.
Sure.
Ideally, you know, I would hope to build enough buzz where they'd be calling me, even though I don't think that's gonna happen. But that'd be the goal. And then after maybe a year or two, so my brother actually just joined me as well.
Oh, awesome!
So
wow, awesome! That's
really cool.
Yeah.
So we're kind of mapping out like what's the goal, how do we break down. Let's say it takes 10 years to get to the goal. What's year one? What's year 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 10? So we're kind of mapping out our thoughts around that. But yeah, right now it's all direct to consumer, focusing on indie. He's up in Chicago, and I just moved from there. So really like indie Chicago for now, but keeping it pretty Midwest.
Right, so the goal is to keep it not local, but somewhat in that Midwest realm. You don't really want to go out too far?
For now.
Okay.
I mean, I want it to be the biggest thing it can be.
Yeah.
That's not like my biggest motivator. I want it to be a great product.
Yeah.
And I want to enjoy it more. I would rather enjoy my life and not have a huge business than have one and just hate what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that like going nationwide means I'm going to hate my life. I don't know.
Right.
But
the more stuff you have, the more responsibility you have, which means the more stress you have.
Yeah.
So
which can be good.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
the stress from this is a completely different stress than from like previous jobs I've had. You know, so it's just I'm thinking about it in a 1 to 3 year term.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And when you were starting to create this, you said it was just like on a Tuesday or Saturday night. What was post college? What were you doing? Were you working just like a normal job outside of that, or?
Yeah, I was sales and software. Normal job. I was still kind of partying after college. I did a lot of that in high school, and then did not as much, honestly, but a lot of that in college, and then a little bit after, and now just like nothing at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was just working a regular job and not liking it so much.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy that like really has to be into what I'm doing. I used to think, like I did this little thing in high school, and it was just basically like a money grab kind of situation. And I used to think that I could just like any business that was a good business and made money, I'd be into. And it's just like now that I'm 27, I've realized I'm the complete opposite.
Yeah.
I have to love what I'm doing.
Yeah. One of my favorite YouTubers, actually, he was talking about how he said, in order to find the job you want to do, work a job that you hate. And every minute that you're working the job that you hate, you'll be thinking about how to get out of it into a job that you love. And
Ooh, I like that.
And it kind of sounds like that's, you're working a job, you're like, okay, I'm making decent money, but this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Let me go home in the kitchen on a Saturday night
and
cook up some food. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I think it is too. And it wasn't that exact process, but I graduated from college knowing that I'm going to start something after college.
Yeah.
And I was still, right when I graduated school, it was still a little bit of a what's going to make money kind of thing. And that's just kind of shifted.
Yeah.
I think like when I look at what I'm going to dedicate my life to, I don't think I would start a business if I didn't think it had the potential to be something big, but that's not, I don't get up every day for money. I don't even care. Really.
Yeah, that seems to be, I think, again, I harp on this so much, it seems to be a common theme amongst people that come in and sit in this chair is it's not that we tried to figure out the best way to build money, to build an empire, to grow our name.
Right.
It was kind of we knew what we liked and we knew what we were passionate about, and we knew that if we dedicated to that, then people would be appreciative of that.
Yes.
And naturally it would grow itself. Naturally, we would start to develop a better product or service, and that was their passion, their driving force. It wasn't the money. That came, and yes, money is necessary to some extent,
right.
but it's really cool to see that common theme kind of just, again, everyone who comes and sits down, they're not in it for the money.
Yeah.
And they always harp on that. But yeah, it's been really cool to learn hear from, all kinds of different businesses about the same thing sitting in this chair. It's like, I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it because I like art. I'm in it because I like videography. I'm in it because I like real estate. Like whatever it is, they're in it for that. So it's
after a while, you probably think that people aren't lying anymore.
No, yeah, exactly. Eventually, you think,
Yeah.
So you mentioned some like connections that you've been able to make through like the process of learning, and what have been some of those key connections, and have those networkings, has that been still consistent in this, or?
I need to do a better job in staying up with the people that I've connected with. I'll probably put that as a to-do now. But I've been meaning to do this monthly email or maybe even quarterly to some of these people, and I just haven't done it. So I need to do that. But yeah, I connected with, I'm trying to think about how I did this, but it was a guy named Christian out of Brooklyn, I think at the time. And he's actually a pretty big deal. I connected with him through a shared kitchen in Chicago. And he is actually so he helped me like mess with the recipe a little bit. Once I got towards the end, he kind of tweaked it. And he was actually the chef for Tommy Hilfiger and David Letterman. And like studied in Italy, studied in Japan. Yeah, it's like really cool stuff.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Really nice guy too. Like great dude. So he actually came to Chicago once, and we worked on it together. So he was pretty vital, and he actually put me in touch with the guy who helped me with the label as well, Sebastio, who was really good. So that was a big one, but yeah, all my connections I think have been through shared kitchens or just like hitting people up on LinkedIn and Instagram. Actually, I've done a decent amount of networking through Instagram, and what I focused on more so were people that started food businesses, and then they would either give me a guy to talk to about shelf life or say like, hey, look at like monk fruit, or look at vitamin E to tocopherols. You guys don't care about this stuff.
No, I do. I find that fascinating. So what role, so you said you were in Chicago doing all this. You said you came back because your family was here, but what was it like? Why did you decide to come back to Indy to do this when you were already kind of getting settled in Chicago?
I was just sick of being in Chicago. I think it was more of a just I wanted to be back here.
Gotcha.
I wanted to be home.
Yeah.
I was sick of. The biggest thing was I love Chicago. I think it's a cool city, but is that Chicago right there, by the way?
That's Indianapolis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's the canal that goes right there.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
But like I'm not like I don't care about nice restaurants. I don't care about bars and partying anymore. So it's like I had a bunch of friends up there, so I do, and my brother, so I miss them. But like I'm paying 2x for 3x for what in return?
Yeah.
And I could be back here with less headaches from a smaller city, closer to the rest of my family besides my brother. And I also just didn't want to spend the rest of my life in Chicago, and I was getting to the point of like live there for 3-4 years. What do I do? I stay here or do I just go back?
So you saw more of a potential for both personal and business, right?
I did, kind of. I don't know. The way I look at it is Chicago has more of a health food market in terms of just a bigger one,
Okay.
but it's being served as well.
Gotcha.
I think Indy has that market. It's smaller, but it's not being served as well. Mm-hmm. So I think Indy is a great place to start it, and I don't think that like me moving from like big Chicago
Yeah.
ruins me.
Gotcha. So you've been doing this now. You've launched last month officially. You're about to you're about to rebrand. As this airs, actually probably the week that this airs, you're gonna be rebranding with a new label. Right now, you're just online with sales. What is your aspirations in the next 1 to 3 years?
I want to be the Indy health food company.
Okay.
I want to get really involved in health and fitness in Indy, and that's not just 1 to 3 years. That's like probably for life.
Gotcha.
Honestly.
Sure.
I think something that's really cool. Do you guys know On It, the supplement company?
Yes.
Aubrey
Absolutely.
Marcus.
That's the one that is that Joe Rogan's on that
Yes.
one? Yes.
So I think he
On it.
invested or something.
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't know what it is or what the structure is for them, but it started as a supplement company.
Yeah.
And what I think is really cool about what they did was they started as a supplement company and then now are like a staple in Austin for health and fitness, have gyms, like gyms, yoga. They have like fitness studios all around the fitness world and then also have a content piece. So they have podcasts and things like that. And I think that's really cool. So I'm thinking about the next like 10, 20 years. Do I just want to build a food company or do I also want to, it could be really cool as we grow and get bigger to also have like a bunch of gyms around Indy and podcasts to talk about all this stuff. So I don't know yet what the end goal is, but I'll either go straight food and just launch as many cool products as I think I can, or kind of branch out into those.
Do you have any more flavors kind of in the pipeline already?
Yeah.
Can we get a sneak peek of maybe what those would be?
Blueberry hemp coconut. Blueberry coconut hemp. I was trying to think about those.
Yeah.
So that's probably the next one.
Awesome.
But I gotta put more work into it, and I don't even really care to launch a third yet. I don't think.
Okay.
But the hemp would be used for the protein to substitute whey. I like whey, but technically it is dairy.
Right.
So if people don't like it, if they're straight vegan, then they'd have a problem with it. So I would like to have a vegan option. So yeah, blueberry hemp coconut I think
It's
would
so
be
interesting
good.
how like I wouldn't have even thought about the different types of proteins. And,
I know.
So when you're creating these, how do you even think about all of like when you're putting these ingredients together?
Yeah.
Is that like a conscious effort? Do you have to keep track of that? Because there's a lot, especially in this current like health climate where there's so many different types of diets and fads constantly coming in and out. How do you stay organized with all that?
Yeah, I think you can't be everything to everyone. So like I'm not vegan. I personally don't think it's the optimal way to eat.
Yeah.
My girlfriend is she's more like pescatarian, but she's kind of more in that vegan world, which is fine. But I don't think you should be everything to everyone. What we're gonna be is protein, fruits, veggies, fats without any of the bad sugar and all that stuff coming with it.
Long term. That's sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's who we are. But yeah, I mean, when you're making these recipes, which, you know, it was tough to make these two. So it's not the easiest thing in the world, but you just have to kind of keep in mind. There's a software called ReciPal, which you can put in your recipe and it shows you what the nutrition facts would be.
Really?
So
that's cool.
Super helpful.
That's really
super
cool.
helpful. Can you imagine me like doing 20 grams? So. So that's super helpful, but I keep in mind, like first thing is natural and wholesome, good ingredients, and then what's the macronutrient content that we're looking at, then flavor, texture, and then shelf life. You have to figure out, but I'm in a pretty good position.
So I have a really interesting question because I'm curious to know how you do this because it sounds like you are the jack of all trades for your company. It sounds like you're in charge of the recipe, making it, packaging it, selling it,
Yeah.
marketing it, social media, website. Do you do all of that?
Yes, but not by choice.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I wish I wasn't. Now that my brother's on board as of like a week ago, he's gonna help me a lot with like just networking across social media and doing like partnerships and just working with other people. But yeah, I've done everything to date, but I'm looking to not.
How has that been? How do you balance
I was about to ask
that?
how you balance that.
Takes a long time. Like that's maybe something that I should have done differently was find somebody else, because somebody could have been focusing on the recipe and somebody else is focusing on branding and marketing. Instead it just took a long time.
Yeah.
So maybe that was dumb, but yeah, it's just like staying organized. I'm not a very organized person, but this has kind of forced me to be. And I just kind of I honestly separate things like I separate like workouts for the week. So there's like leg day, back day.
Yeah.
So you just think about like production days, marketing days,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
That's
It's
smart.
really cool to
Yeah.
hear about the balance of all of that. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine how much goes into just putting that together.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's like just like we were talking about this podcast.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
all that little
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
like the plug-in is $140, and I would have never thought of that.
Yep.
Like I think there's that in everything.
Yeah, and I think like I've harped on this quite a bit, maybe recently, but it's just staying organized is, like you said, it's not something that I naturally am good at, but it's something
Yes.
that with what I'm currently doing, I'm forced into.
Yes.
Whether it's just keeping a list, on a piece of paper or creating
Yes.
some sort of spreadsheet online.
Yeah.
That's moving forward. With you and your brother, have you guys designated specific roles and like your goals and accomplishments, or is that one of those things where you guys are just kind of out on a limb going with it, or?
Yeah, we have, but that's what we're doing that now. But yeah, we've mapped out the next 10 years.
Wow.
From goal to today, and like what the finish line looks like for us, and we're starting a weekly call on Fridays.
Cool.
But from where I see him playing, he's in sales as well. He's in software sales.
Okay.
He's been in sales for 7 years, and I think he's more of a true sales guy than I am, honestly.
Gotcha.
So I think where he's going to go is like head of retail sales, or basically run sales.
Yeah.
I like more of the marketing stuff. More, I'm not that experienced with it yet, but I like this kind of stuff.
Right.
And I actually kind of like social media, which I've never been
For sure.
a social media guy in the past.
Yeah.
But I think all that's pretty cool. So I don't know how we're gonna break it out in the future, but that's kind of how I see it now. Is like him completely running retail.
That's really cool.
That is really cool. So for anybody out there that is wanting to start, whether it's their own food company or starting their own like small business, and since you're just starting out in the beginning stages of actually launching your product and you're just now really getting your name out there and starting to move forward, what regrets do you have, or what advice do you have for someone that's thinking about beginning stages even before the launch?
I kind of don't believe in any advice, honestly. I'm a believer in, like, for big things. Like, if you're going to start a business, you have to take little advice, like how do you make that shelf stable?
Yeah.
Sure, but that's more of like a strategy thing. But if you're deciding to do something, I think you have to just think to yourself and figure out what's the right move for you. And not compare yourself to other people, and just kind of do your thing. So I guess that is advice, even though I don't like advice. Then at the same time, I don't think anybody listening to this should take my advice. I think they should just figure it out for themselves. But I guess what I would say is my regrets. I wish I started earlier. I had thoughts when I was 18 to stop drinking and start, so I started little stuff in high school and I did in college too. But I was like, I had this thought of I should stop partying and really get more serious. But then I still had one foot in that door. So if I would have just taken those 4 years, then who cares? I don't really regret anything.
Right.
Have great friends to this day from that. But I do have just that, what if I did maximize those 4 years instead of just complaining about school and partying?
Yeah. What's been one thing, since you've been doing so much research and trial and error and the nutrition side of things, what's been one interesting fact that has stood out above everything else for you?
by far the most interesting thing, and this is going to get into a little like tinfoil hat conspiracy, but is how much, I don't want to say lie, but how much false information people have been fed about nutrition over the last 80 years.
Yes.
It's absurd.
Yes.
Really?
It's
I've never heard anything about this. I'm interested.
Yeah.
My roommates and I talk about this all the time.
Yeah. It's absurd. And it's like growing up, you think anything that your parents, school, the government tells you is true. And I shouldn't have even said government, because now I'm like, I'm like wacky.
Yeah.
But like, you just think anybody that is in that position, what they're saying is right, and that's not the case sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I can send you guys some I can send you some
Yeah.
stuff about it, but just like the low fat trend in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yep.
We've come to realize that's just completely false, and a lot of people think it's because of studies that were done. I think it was, I don't remember what company it was, but I think it was the American Heart Association was funded by a company to and I don't know if they were trying to prove a certain thing, but they were like looking to make carbs and sugar not bad for you.
Yes.
So if they're looking for a certain result in their studies, they're probably going to find it. So then they made fat the scapegoat. Fat was now a big issue nutritionally 20 years ago, which now we've realized is not. And not saying they caused the obesity epidemic, but look where we're at.
Yeah.
We're not doing too good.
I
that's a
completely
big
agree.
statement, but
No, there's a lot. There's actually a lot there.
Yeah.
Whether they tell us, oh, coffee's really good for you. Coffee's really bad for you.
Yeah.
Eggs are really good for you. Eggs are really
Yes.
bad for you. Like,
That's a good one.
there's never, red meat will kill you. Red meat's the basis of your diet. You should eat it every day.
Yep.
There's so much misinformation out
Too
there,
much.
and I think that the fact that you've been able to break something down into something so simple will be very effective if you're able to get yourself out there, because people are looking for this kind of stuff, something honest, simple, and it gets everything they need in just a couple bites, and you're there and you're good to go.
Yeah.
So I think you're in a market, you found that niche that even though you're just starting, and it may get even harder here in the next couple months for you next year, don't give up, because I think you do have something that people really will latch onto it once they've tried it. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, for people that are listening, watching, tuning in, what can they do to get a hold of you, to learn more about your product, to buy the product?
Yeah.
Coni Superfoods.com is the
Got it.
website. CONI Superfoods.
Okay.
We have a company text that's
Cool.
you can text 317-342-0569. 317-342-0569.
Very cool.
Or you can just text directly. We also send out a weekly health text just about
Love
interesting
that.
stuff that I'm coming
Yeah.
across, with the goal of here's just something for you to look into and research yourself, try yourself. It's not, don't take it as law, just like we were talking
Yep.
about.
Yeah. Yep.
Just try things. Don't take what I say as fact. And so there's that text, or just Instagram.
Cool.
Instagram, Twitter, all of them. It's at Coni Superfoods, CONI.
Very
Perfect,
cool.
Perfect.
Well, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
It was awesome chatting with you this morning, learning more about your story and then your company, your product. So, thank you. Thank you so
for
much.
coming on. It
Thank
was
you
awesome.
guys.
It was
Yep.
awesome.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys for watching. We hope you tune in next week for another episode of the Hustle Indie Show.